Vibe Tribe, it's me, Salia Marie 1243, your fairy tarot sister. And today, it's a little bit of a story time. Babies, I have been going deep into the Akashic Records. If you have not booked an Akashic Records reading and you have been getting glimpses of your past lives, you guys want to confirm them, you want to see what's up, what's real, what's fake, I'm your girl. I got you. I have been occasionally giving out codes on my TikTok for people to get a discount on Akashic Records readings because the Akashic Records are insane. It's so cool. Especially my star seeds. If you feel like you're a star seed and you want to get some confirmations on some of your abilities that you have, some things that you might be scared of, karma that you might be experiencing or dealing with in this lifetime that you could have carried over from other lifetimes, we can figure those things out in Akashic Records. And the way that my Akashic Records readings work, I've learned, is that we don't always cover all of your lives, right? Because, well, we've never covered everybody's life because there's so many. For me, I'm a super old soul. Super old soul. I've had like hundreds of lifetimes. I haven't even covered all of them yet. My guides have made that very clear. And a lot of you guys are the same way as well. So what happens is in Akashic Records read, I go through, usually we get through 1 to 3. I think 4 is the most we've had, but it kind of just depends on whatever information comes to me, right? Whatever they show me, I go in with my spirit guide, Light Being Carl, who is from Arcturus. I go into the records, we pull out whatever information that they want to tell you in this moment, because whatever comes out in your Akashic Records at that time is something that has to do with what you're going through currently in your lifetime. Isn't that cool? Like, you can figure out maybe some of the people, why they're in your life, whatever. Okay, so let's get to the story. So I want to start telling a lot more of the stories of the Akashic Records that I read because I don't want to forget, and I take notes during them, and sometimes it's hard for me to like sit down and write them down, so I want to have a record of everything. So I want to make this a series where I share the different Akashic Records readings that I do with you guys, take you guys through the lifetimes, and some of you guys might see your own Akashic Records stories on here, and it'll be a good reference for you if you want to go back. If you didn't take good notes, which I recommend everybody do. But anyways, so let me tell you about this particular client. Let me come up with like an alias. We'll call her Sally. We'll call her Sally, the client. Okay. So Sally, immediately when I sat down with Sally, she had this beautiful, strong energy about her. And for one, her and her team came through hella strong. When I say that, I mean, I'm a spirit guide whisperer. If you guys are new, I deal with a lot of spirit guide, peeps. They come into me, they like me, I'm able to sense their energy. She came in with her ancestors behind her, very strong. There was a sense of like, I could tell it was from like an indigenous culture. I couldn't tell which one necessarily. She later told me that she was Cherokee, which also relates to part of the story later. So listen for that. But I can immediately tell that she was a very, very strong and protected presence when she came in, because it was almost like I could see her spirit guides lined up behind her, and they were like, all right, let's do this. Like, we're ready. And they were so supportive and loving and protecting. It was really, really cool. So let's get into her read. So I go into her read. The first stop is Arcturus. It was really, really cool because I think she was a scientist. She was kind of like a herbologist. What I saw was her at this pond, and she was studying a bunch of different types of plants. Okay, I had to go get my notes so that I could remember. So during my Akashic Records reads, I do a lot more like automatic writing and channeling than cards. My spirit guides don't want me to use cards. My higher self was like, no cards, girl. I actually got an Akashic Records reading myself from somebody else, and my higher self was like, girl, if you're gonna read the Akashic Records, you can't be using the tarot 24/7 because it's not gonna make sense to you. And I was like, yeah, that does make sense, because how I see everything is like a movie. So I will describe to you what it is that I'm seeing in great detail. I'm an artist, so I got y'all. I'm going to describe it the best way I can. But anyways, so here's my notes. So yeah, basically, oh, that's right. So one of the first things that I saw was, let me cover up the name, but the first thing that I saw was a plant thingy that kind of looked like this. If you guys follow, like Pokemon, you guys know Bulbasaur? You know that little thing on his back, the little like flower thingy? It kind of looked like that, the plant that I was seeing. And it had like, so when it's open, right, it was like pink and it had like green leaves around it. And I couldn't tell why, but that's kind of what we were focused on first. And I believe that she was like studying this plant. So we found out that she was like an herbalist. Some of the notes I wrote, it was weird because there was almost like this sense of her absorbing, like putting her hand on things and being able to absorb the energy of the plant and kind of understand it that way, which is really cool. So she was like this really cool, like scientist type of herbalist. And then, also, I think it was like a biologist is kind of what was going on, because then marine animals came out. And I've seen that before on Arcturus, like where like marine animals will come out kind of similar to ours, but there was like a slightly different feel. Like it felt like dolphins, and like I was just being brought to marine animals. And so I brought that up, and she was like, oh, that's so cool, because in this lifetime, and this is how it connects, right? She's like, in this lifetime, she talks about being very, very into like plants. Plant medicine came up several times. Which is really, really cool. And then she also said that she has always loved marine life. Like she has been really interested in it since she was little, and she, like, no coincidences, right? And just a tip for those of you guys who do end up getting Akashic Records reads with me, do not come into the session and tell me your whole life, okay? I would much rather just channel into your energy and whatever your records say, whatever they want to tell me about what's going on with you, so that it's more of a confirmation than you just telling me your life and I'm confirming it. Does that make sense? That's called feeding the medium. Don't feed me when you come in there and tell me your whole life story. I will ask you if you want to ask something specific, but I want to be able to give you these details and for you to be like, oh, how did you know, blah, 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 like that connects this way, and we will go back and forth between this lifetime and your past lifetimes, and we will figure out where the connections are, because that's probably the reason for the reading at the time, right? Isn't this cool? You guys, I'm so excited to share these stories with you because they're so, so cool. They make so much sense. Okay, so there was that, and then we'll get into the second life. So the second life, I was seeing a desert immediately. It was a desert, and I felt that she was an indigenous person in this as well, in this lifetime. She was Native American. I saw her as a man, and that will often happen in lifetimes, in past lives. We can be male, female. Our relationship dynamics might change with people. But I saw her as a man, and I saw her bleeding out in the desert. I saw a very, very big wound in her heart chakra, and that's funny because as I said it, my heart started to hurt, and I could feel it, right? I use all of my clairs when I read, so sometimes I will feel things, sometimes I'll hear things, but I'm mostly seeing. And so I saw her on the desert, and she was like reaching out for this cactus that was out in the distance, and I could tell that she was like thirsty. Like it was incredibly hot. She was very thirsty, and she was kind of bleeding out from her chest area and also her stomach. So it kind of gave me this sense of like a huge heart chakra blockage as well as a solar plexus blockage. And so I just saw her out there parched in the desert, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out why she was there, because they don't always show me things in order, right? It's up to me to kind of figure out, to read, right? That's the point of me being a reader. I decode dreams. Very similar. I try to figure out the reasons why things happen. I use my intuition to go in and get more detail from my spirit guides from the records. So we ended up finding out that she was basically kidnapped by people who did not look like her. Okay, they were white people. She got kidnapped. They were white people it was interesting because there was 3 horses, very specifically. There were 3 horses. They rolled up on the horses. I saw them carrying her or him in that lifetime. And then they obviously, like, I don't know. I think they were like gunshots possibly. But then they just dropped him off in the desert, starving, thirsty, and he was trying to get to this cactus far away in the distance. I think for maybe water. That's what it felt like. So what I also figured out I could do, this is really cool. I figured out that I can offer healing to people in their past lives. So because we know, right? Or maybe we don't. Let's talk about it. Maybe I need to, if you guys want to hear another, if you guys want to hear about the way that, first off, if you're interested in hearing more about these stories, please let me know in the comments. Make sure you like this, boost this, share this with anybody who you've been talking to about past lives, because I know that conversation has been popping up for people. I swear, I know it. The collective, we're on fire when it comes to our intuition. We have been getting all of this new information. It's the age of Aquarius, babes, okay? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So I want to hear what you guys think about this, and like if you'd like to hear more, please let me know. So where were we? All right, of course, healing. Okay, so I found out what I can do is offer healing to your past life that should help you to heal in this life, because what I was talking about earlier, I got a little bit off track. What you may or may not know is that everything technically is all happening at once. When we're talking about past lives, it's not even really technically happening in the past. The way I kind of think of our timeline, linear time is a very human construct. In the whole scheme of things, it's actually, I kind of see it as like a sphere. It's all happening simultaneously. If you guys want to know more about that, let me know as well. Okay, but anyways, so what I was able to figure out I could do is send healing, because it's through energy, and energy travels through space-time, since it's all happening now anyways. What I figured out is I could, sorry, this camera angle is bugging. Okay. I figured out I could send healing. So I was able to send her healing. I haven't gotten back with her yet. I'm still learning how to do that. So that is something that I'm offering as a service for my clients who are getting Akashic Records reads at no additional cost, because I'm still learning how to do it. But I have already had people report that it's helped them. And if you guys want to hear how that has helped, let me know in the comments too. Okay, so that lifetime, basically I sent her healing in her heart and in her solar plexus, and I'm interested to see how that has kind of helped her out. Okay, so the last lifetime that I'm going to cover for her, Japan. I teased this a little bit on TikTok, so if you're coming from my TikTok, you might have seen it, but her lifetime in Japan was definitely the most interesting one to me, and it definitely had a lot of significance for her in this lifetime. So I saw her being kidnapped or taken away from her family as a very small child in Japan. The first scene of what I saw was her actually reflecting in a type of lotus pond. She was in Japan. I could tell it was Japan because there started to, like, music started to play. I could tell it was Asia because, like, Asian music started to play. I could hear it was very distinct. I keep closing my eyes because I'm trying to go back into that moment and see. So I'm seeing her sit at a pond, and remember when I told you guys that we saw this flower? I'm thinking that this flower on Arcturus was the same kind of flower that a lotus, like it's the equal of what a lotus would be on Arcturus. Isn't that cool? Because that was the first thing that I saw, and then when I was in this Japanese past life, that was the first thing that I saw. Spirit will give us little confirmations along the way, which is so helpful to help confirm that we're not just making this up, right? So I see her reflecting as an older woman, not older, but older than she was when she got kidnapped. She was probably about 30 years old. She was reflecting on her life. Now that I think about it, she's probably a little bit older than that, but she was reflecting on her life as, you know, this kidnapped child. So then I zoomed back in. I saw what happened as a child. There was a lot of emphasis on her relationship with her mother, and I didn't ask her, but it seemed like her father either wasn't the same father that she had in this lifetime or could be a little bit detached. but she definitely confirms some things about her relationship with her mom in this lifetime. So I saw her mom crying, obviously, hysterically, as the, it was kind of like the mob, I guess, but it was interesting because there were 3 dudes on 3 horses. Different guys from that last lifetime, but still 3 dudes, still 3 horses. They took her away from her family, and then I wanted to see what they were doing with her, and I was really hoping that it wouldn't be anything crazy. They didn't give me any gruesome details, but I feel like there were some like not so great things that happened to her as a child. So they showed me her in this little room, and the thing that struck me was really interesting because as a kid, she maybe was about 8 to 10 years old. She didn't really, when they took her away from her mom was crying hysterically, but she wasn't really budging much. Like, she was it's almost like she was numb. She didn't understand what was going on, and I feel like she was also trying to be really brave. So, and I believe that's what her mom was telling her too. Like, it's weird because I heard it in Japanese and I don't understand Japanese, but I could like translate it. I could understand. Like, her mom was like kissing her and she was like fixing her hair and she was like, you go, you be strong. It was really, really cute. It's like watching a movie. It's crazy. So they take her away. I see her in this room and she finally breaks down and she's crying. It's a dark room. It's kind of orangey reddish. But then what I end up seeing in the back is all of these different weapons, especially swords. I'm seeing huge like machetes and like all these big ass weapons, all these big weapons. And I find out that they train this little girl to be an assassin. They trained her to be an assassin, y'all. Like, it was crazy. So, and it's crazy because the whole time I'm like seeing all this, she's smiling and I know that she's resonating with it. So I just keep reading. And I'm like, they trained you to be an assassin. There was a lot of like kind of abuse and things like that going on. But I was like, yeah, you were an assassin. You went out there with them and you helped them do the things they needed to do as like these mob people. And so I asked her how it resonated with her, and she was smiling and laughing, and she was like, well, in this lifetime, I also love weapons. She was like, I love like especially the knives, and she talked about having nunchucks that she plays with, and she also talked about cosplay and how she loves to cosplay assassin-like characters. She was like, that is exactly the kind of character that I always like, I'm really interested in. I want to cosplay. And I'm like, that is no freaking coincidence. You are remembering that part of you from your past life. Like, you guys, the way that this stuff works is crazy to me. But so one thing that I do want to note before we go is like, one thing that I noticed, we usually notice that what I call it is a string. There's always a string that happens between, especially the human past lives, where there is like a repetitive theme, and that's probably a theme that you're going through in your life. And the theme in this was like abandoned or being isolated, because in both of those lives here on Earth that we read, she was being left, or she was being taken away from something that she knew. We also had a little bit of a discussion about a lot of the emotions that I didn't get too much into, but it was almost like she has on this very like strong front where she is not allowed to feel her emotions. So I also went in there and tried to help her heal with that, and I'm really interested to see how that helped her, if at all. So if this was interesting to you guys, please let me know. I'm so excited to share more and more of your guys' stories. If you've already had an Akashic Records read with me, you will probably see your story up here at some point. I will probably use an alias, but it's going to be really, really cool to hear everybody's stories and be able to compare them to like different people's encounters, especially on the different planets and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to share these with you. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to see more stuff like this, make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe and turn on post notifications, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.